Don't be an anonymous investor. Join the stock market social media platform public.com. Invest any amount of money and share with friends and new friends. Discover new opportunities, such as new companies and potential business partners, and useful tools for beginners, and share your experience with friends on public.com. Link in the video description gets you $5 for being a Grid Network viewer. Use the referral code GridNet for your free $5 to invest. Start investing and networking on public.com. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Grid Live Pre-Race. Joe Samaniego here along with Julia, Adam, Joshua, and Kobe from the podium finish. We got a lot of racing to discuss about, as you see below in the tracker. But first, before we get into MotoGP, a big thank you to our Patreon subscribers, Colin, Michelle, Mark, and Robin for keeping us on the air. And one of the big things, of course, with our Patreons, if you want to do a one-time contribution, you can as well do a Buy Me a Coffee, a one-time contribution for us here at the Grid Network. So overall, very exciting day of racing, and we start off with MotoGP. MotoGP, of course, they're at France, the Bugatti circuit for the French Grand Prix, and that is, of course, the home of Fabio Quartararo and Johan Zarco. And the fans are back, and they're back in full force. Huge turnout. And for the defending MotoGP World Champion, a solid start overall. 4th and 6th fastest in the first and second practice on Friday. Today, fastest in the final practice and 4th for the race. The forecast, though, this is where it's looking a little interesting. Potential chance of rain. And, of course, we know some riders like Oliveira, who won in Indonesia under wet conditions. Jack Miller, very good in the rain. This could really change up the race. So overall, Julia, starting with you, when it comes to this race, how much will this dampen the chances for Quartararo to win if we have rain?
Well, so definitely the thing with Quartararo is that this season he is better in the rain than the last season. It kind of shows that Yamaha made some changes to the bike that helped him to perform better in the rain. I mean, it's still not perfect, like you've seen, for example, Marc Marquez using his chance in the rain, or Jack Miller or Miguel Oliveira, but it's still not that bad. And honestly, even though it can rain because it is Le Mans, it is France, it always can rain there. So then Jack Miller may be the biggest contender for the victory, even though he has Pecco Bagnaia next to him and Aleix is back there also. But if it's gonna rain, I think Fabio Quartararo still is able maybe not to win because we have bigger rain specialists in front of him. But he is still definitely a candidate for the podium. And I think like he really, it's his home race. For sure he's gonna like to get a podium there in front of the fans, because we know how it was in the last year and the last years. The KTM had problems this weekend. They are not starting, in really great positions. So honestly, if it's gonna rain, I think then the favorite for the win may be Jack Miller. And then maybe Fabio Quartararo. We have no idea how Aleix is gonna look in the rain, because he's been performing very well from the beginning of the season. But I think like the race in Indonesia with rain is totally a different thing than the race in Le Mans. Because Indonesia was a new track. I was talking to Darren Binder, and he said that their other riders told him that the grip in Indonesia was insane for a wet race. So I think in Europe, the rain is going to be a totally different story. But I'm really, really curious to see that. Honestly, a flag-to-flag race or wet race would be really interesting. But let's just hope for a really, really good rivalry and fight until the end. And let's hope that Pekka is not going to just ride away.
I really hope not, because otherwise that Ducati looks pretty much unbeatable. It's been quite quick all weekend. Yeah, Indonesia, you mentioned as well. That one went to Miguel Oliveira. Quartararo finished in second place as well. It was his best result until winning in Portugal as well. Then he got second in Spain as well. But I think if it is a wet race tomorrow, I'm putting my bets on Marc Marquez on what we saw last year as well, because he's qualified outside the top 12 last year when it was a similar situation. We had a flag to flag at the French Grand Prix and the rain came down, and he was leading for quite a while until he dropped it at the last corner at Recruitment as well. But he was still coming back from injury then. It was only like his third race back or so. So he was still struggling, still getting back into the swing of it. Now, we've already seen him in the past 2 weekends make 3 incredible saves. 2 on his elbow, 1 on his shoulder as well. His damaged shoulder as well. So this is perfect. If it rains tomorrow, Mark, who starts 10th, could just go straight through. He can ride an extra couple of laps. He feels like he's taking Fridays now, not as an attack to the limit, but developing the bike, finding what time he's got, and then he can push up as well. So Mark's going to be the dark horse if it rains. For Fabio Quartararo, as I said, as Julia said as well, second place in Indonesia on a track that was too grippy for anything as well. I mean, me and Megan were commentating on that one, expecting red flags, everyone flying off the track, as Mark did in the warm-up session. Didn't expect for it to be so grippy. It was more grippy in the wet than it was in the dry. France isn't like that. If it gets wet, you slip everywhere. It's got that too smooth a surface as well on the Bugatti track as well. So we're going to see a lot of accidents if it rains, and I'm very much looking forward to it. But Fabio Quartararo in the rain in France for their first world champion. Yeah, it sounds perfect for a first home win, doesn't it?
That will make a very exciting first home win. And for the fans there, I think they'll just go crazy. However, if he has to get that win, he has to go through Pecco. He is on the pole, and that's essentially dampened the energy from the crowd. Huge crowd today. They were energized. They were excited. But Pecco got there with a new track record. Then we see his teammate Miller and Alatius on the front row. Quattro and Zarco, they're in the second row with Bassini in between them for 5th place. And Ducati, they're looking fast overall, all of them up front. Jorge Martin, of course, made from Q1 into Q2. So the Ducatis, they're looking good. So Julia, could a win by Bagnaia this weekend signal that despite the early, slow season start he had, he is one of the favorites for the championship?
Yeah, so the thing with Pecco is that we've seen it last season that, like, for the first part, he wasn't really, he wasn't taken for a contender for the championship, but then it totally changed, and at the end of the season, we had such a great fight between him and Fabio, and here it's happening even before. Like, he was saying that to Ducati that he is not a test driver, that he doesn't want to test that this bike is totally different, he doesn't know what to do, but honestly, I think, like, in Jerez, and a little in Portugal, he totally clicked with this bike. And from now on, we've seen in such a great shape. He has such a strong base. He's taking pole positions again. Even though at the beginning of the season it was Jorge Martin who was better in qualifying. So honestly, I think it may be a turnaround. Of course, the championship is long. We are in around 7 of 21. But honestly, I think Bagnaia, and I think everyone thinks that Bagnaia is going to be a championship contender this year, even though he's now 5th. But there are still not like terrible gaps. As you see, 33 points. It's not that bad. When, for example, the gaps in Moto2 are now after I think top 4 are over 80 points. So honestly, yeah, I think this is a turn. This is a turnaround already because he is really good. And I think he will be a great, maybe even after some time, maybe the Ducati is going to have great pace in the next rounds in Mugello, maybe even Germany, but we know this is Marc Marquez Kingdom. Then we have even Assen and the new track in Finland. but I think he may be even the favorite later on for the championship. But definitely the Ducati is going strong, Pecco is strong, and I think after the chance he lost last year, he is going to desire this championship even more.
Championship, long season ahead. It's going to be a lot to see if the Ducatis can pull up and start seeing the United challenge for that championship. And of course, another team that have fast bikes, Suzuki, they got both riders in the top 10. Mir had to do it the hard way through Q1 into Q2. And Suzuki, they did make it official this week that they're negotiating with Dorna Sports about their withdrawal. Julia, Josh, when it comes to here in the United States, we've seen teams, especially like in NASCAR, IndyCar, they come and go. They're private teams. The bigger concern is when you have a manufacturer depart the sport. Like, for example, 2012, Dodge left NASCAR, so you only had Toyota, Chevrolet, and Ford. But this is a factory team, so Suzuki, they're completely out. I don't believe they have any customer teams. So this is definitely different compared to just a private team exiting. How complex is this for Suzuki to depart MotoGP, and could Dorna put any conditions on their departure, like a replacement team needs to be named?
Should I begin? Well,
ladies first.
Okay. Well, definitely Dorna can put their, their conditions because Suzuki had signed a deal. And as I've heard, it's a deal for staying in MotoGP for 5 years. So as Dorna is going to be the victim side of the part in the deal, so I think that maybe not they can put conditions, but there may be conditions for a situation like that. And also it's been being said that there are teams interested in taking over the team because Dorna has also said that they want to take care of the both riders who are going to be the victims of the whole situation. So Jean Mir and Alex Rins, who totally had not expected, even though they didn't have a contract for next season, they didn't expect something like this to happen. That now they may be 2 seats less than we were expecting to have. And they're also saying that they want to take care of the staff who's working for Suzuki and had also been surprised by the decision, and they're thinking that the next year they may be without a job. And Carlos Espeleta, so the head of Dorna, said that there are teams being interested in taking care of that team. And honestly, some people had an interpretation like that Kawasaki or BMW, but honestly, when you think logically, BMW and Kawasaki they don't have projects for MotoGP ready. When you want to get into MotoGP, you have a plan. You've planned it for years, and you have a plan, and you have almost a ready bike. You have a team. You have a rider to enter the next year. So this is like totally impossible, especially that Kawasaki and BMW are focused on World Superbikes. But we may get another, for example, a satellite team of Aprilia, or maybe another satellite team of Honda or Yamaha. Like, who knows? Honestly, I really hope there's not going to be another Ducati satellite team because enough, please. No, please.
Yeah. I don't want a fifth.
8 bikes. It's okay, guys. It's okay, guys. But this is such an interesting situation. It was such a shock for me when I read it in the morning that they're now just decided to departure and they're leaving it all, in pieces. But I think we're gonna see and hear about it more, and it's gonna be a pretty even more silly season.
I'm loving it because we've been hearing that Honda are talking with both Johan Mir and Alex Rins to take over Pol Espargaro's seat. And also Ducati say the same thing about taking over Jack Miller's seat because they want Mir on it. But Mir doesn't want to ride the Ducati, so it's all been kicking off. Bang on with what you said about Julia as well with they signed the 5-year Concord agreement. So Dorna could realistically take them to court and say, look, you've signed this document. You owe us 5 years worth of money for paying to be in the championship. Doubt they're going to get it, but they could just make it harder for Suzuki to leave. Suzuki say they're leaving because it was all financial and COVID, and they've lost a lot of money over the pandemic as well, and it just wasn't financially possible anymore. But it seems to be that ever since they won the championship in 2020 and Davide Brivide left and he went over to Formula One with Renault, now Alpine, it's just crashed. The team have crashed. It's not good. And this is surprising considering, if I put my iPad down for a second, if looking at the team's championship, Suzuki lead at 125 points. They're 16 clear of Aprilia. Now, the team's championship is the best result of their lead driver across the races compared to the construction championship, which is slightly different. So they're leading the team's championship, which if they win that, they'll get the prize money. But they only get the prize money if they're in the next year's championship. So Suzuki now could be in a very strange situation where Dorna could sue them for not being in the championship, and Suzuki could sue Dorna for not giving them the money for the winning this year's championship. It's a very strange situation. It's a very ugly situation, and it's going to get very, very ugly as the season goes on as well. But I'm looking forward to it. It's a lot of fun. For us journalists as well. It's just, it's great. Sit back and watch, and it's brilliant. So I'm thinking the two remaining going to be affected are going to be Mia and Rins as well, losing their rides. Rins, I was saying it all season, he had this year to prove it was the last year of his contract anyway. So it's now looking like it's his last year in MotoGP in the top tier class. For Johan Mir, he's a world champion. He's a proven race winner as well. He'll get snapped up by one of the big teams, probably. He'll go alongside Bagnaia at Ducati, replacing Miller, because Miller already said, I don't really mind if I'm in the top team or not, as long as I'm racing. He's taken the Kyle Crutchlow approach.
Yeah, that surprised me when seeing Miller saying he don't mind going back to. It was just like, wow, okay, that's sends a lot of signals. So it's going to be a very interesting, silly season in MotoGP. And of course, MotoGP part of grid ranking right now, Fabio Quartararo has that lead, but Pecco Bagnaia is now up in the top 5, and he could potentially get a lot more points if he is to make it 2 in a row and win. And some of the breaking news that we heard this morning was we got Valentino Rossi, his number 46, is going to be retired at Mugello. So, Julia, starting with you, what is your favorite Rossi moment in his entire career?
It's really hard to say because, as we know, it's a really, really long career, like very, very long career. And honestly, me being quite younger than you, it's like I haven't seen probably the best years of his. But the thing I remember from watching all the races, for example, and being little, are honestly the picture from Laguna Seca and this fight with Casey Stoner, where they were just, cutting this corner, going after each other. It was amazing. Because it was so special. It was this heart racing of Valentino Rossi and Casey Stoner on this iconic Laguna Seca. I just can't get this out of my head. And I have a friend who actually framed this picture and has it on his wall, which you can see how big moment was that in MotoGP. And honestly, for me, one of the best. I love his celebrations, and I love them always, especially the one in the younger years, because they're not, like 18, 20, 19, 17, they were different. But the ones, like, riding with this chicken on his bike, or one of my favorites is just now when he just parked his bike next to the marshals, jumped through the railings and got into the toy. This is my highlight of watching MotoGP, and I will never forget it.
There's so many wins, isn't there? I'm just looking through them all, trying to think of the favourite one. I'm trying to think of one at Silverstone. But there we go. Yeah, 2015 British Grand Prix at Silverstone. I thought that was the one. I want to get the right year as well. That's one of my top moments. Obviously, we discussed it last year. Do you remember when we went off Valentino Rossi retiring and we said what was all our favourite moments? I said, of course, Barcelona, him versus Lorenzo, and versus Gibernau as well. And then, of course, Laguna Seca, the battles with Marquez, the famous knee incident back in 2015 as well. But for a moment, I was summing up and was thinking about, as a British fan as well, British Grand Prix 2015, the craziest British Grand Prix MotoGP I've ever commentated on, because it rained on the formation lap. Only one rider went to the grid. The start got aborted. And then when it came back out, the rain was pouring down, absolutely bucketing it. And Valentino Rossi stayed hard, got on, and won the race. And that was fantastic to hear the British crowd cheering for Valentino Rossi was unbelievable. And he loves Silverstone. He loves the British crowd as well. I think that was great. And of course, he got his first win in Donington. In the UK. So the UK is a special place to him. There, of course, he won the first Premier Class race back there in 2000 in Donington. So I think Valet and the British public got a special connection, and seeing that was really like one of the British riders had won the race. Like when Cal wins, we always scream up as well. And John McPhee, that 3 times he's won so far. Sam Lowe's currently winning as well. It's very rare. So Valet sort of got adopted into the UK as one of their own. And it was nice to see. And it's a nice memory I've got. And I was watching the race the other day, actually, as well, because I've got Sky now. If for those who don't know, Sky TV. They've got tons of classic races on demand for MotoGP. So I was just watching back on them. The Silverstone 2015 was there. I thought, oh, that was a great race. Great day commentating on it as well. Despite the fact that it was in between the Belgium Grand Prix at the time. So literally did that and then went shut off to Belgium. So the delay nearly missed Formula One because it was inside the same hour back in those days.
Yes, Colin, I'm happy to see Valentino Rossi get his number retired. To me, he's one of the greatest motorcycle Grand Prix road racers of all time. He's up there among the likes of Casey Stoner and Nicky Hayden, the Kentucky Kid, all those great battles that they had back in the day. I'm really happy to see his number getting retired. And with that being said, Julia, we thank you as always for appearing with us. And now, before we let you go, I got to ask you for your pick tomorrow for the MotoGP Grand Prix of France. So it's Fabio Quartararo and Johann Zarco's home race. Yeah, we talked about rain in the forecast. So is a Frenchman going to win tomorrow in their home country, or is someone else going to take the win away from Quartararo and Zarco on their home soil?
Honestly, I would like to see Zarco winning because he would be his first win in MotoGP, or Fabio Quartararo, because the party in Le Mans would be crazy. But I see if it's gonna be like a normal race, like surprisingly, we're gonna see sun in Le Mans. I think it may be Pecco Bagnaia. Maybe Fabio is gonna chase him because maybe he's gonna get a good start, or his pace will be good. We're gonna see the pace of the riders, like the prognosis of the race in the warm-up tomorrow. Then we will be able to say. But I think there will be fighting if it's gonna be in the dry conditions. But I still think that Ducati may have a little advantage over Yamaha. But it's not being said that it means that for 100% Pecco's gonna win. But in the wet conditions, honestly, I think everything can happen as always in MotoGP, even in the dry, but in the wet especially. And then we have Jack Miller starting from the front row, from the second position on the grid. And he is great in the rain. We all know that he won a year ago on Le Mans in the rain when Fabio was struggling to keep his P3. So, well, I think that the best would be to make, like the picks for the dry race, picks for the wet race. But let's say that it is gonna be after qualifying as it was. I think Pecco is the great pick for the win tomorrow.
I'm on board with that.
That's a good choice, Julia. That's a good choice.
Yeah, that's a great choice, Julia. And we're moving on next to the NTT IndyCar Series. And today is the GMR Grand Prix on the IMS Road Course with the month of May festivities kicking off at the Speedway. The green flag has been moved up from after 3:30 to 3:07 p.m. Eastern Time, as weather is expected to get worse after 4 p.m. We're hopeful that we can get a full race in today, but we may not make it to the full distance. Will Power won the pole, his 64th career IndyCar pole, only 3 pole positions away from tying the great Mario Andretti for most all time. Alex Palou starts alongside him, the only Honda starting in the top 7, and some of the surprises we saw yesterday in qualifying in the top 10 include Connor Daly, 4th place, really great run for Connor, probably his strongest run since he took the lead in the Indianapolis 500 lately. The road courses have not been kind to Connor Daly for the longest time now, so definitely a great shot in the arm for that number 20 at Carpenter Racing Team. Callum Ilott qualified 7th, continuing that impressive run of momentum we saw at Barber last race when Ilott was running extremely well, and then unfortunately that mistake brought out the caution. Ilott had a disappointing finish, and Ilott was actually, I believe he was second fastest this morning in the warm-up. So Junko's Hollinger Racing is showing a lot of speed, and Christian Lundgaard, the driver, turned a lot of heads when he made his debut at the IMS Road Course, his IndyCar debut on the IMS Road Course last year. He's starting 8th, looking for a good run for Ray Hall, Letterman, Lanigan Racing. Team Penske's 3-race winning streak to start off the season ended at the last round in Alabama with Arrow McLaren SPs. Pato Award taking the checker flag at Barber. Scott McLaughlin won the season opener. Joseph Newgarden won the next 2. And Will Power, he's the only Penske driver who hasn't won yet this year, but he's very consistent. He's yet to finish outside of the top 5. However, Will Power won here last fall, and he has 5 wins at the IMS Road Course, most out of all active drivers. Is Will Power the overwhelming favorite to win today? Is he beatable? If so, by who?
Well, I think the rain's going to play a big factor in deciding who wins at the IMS Road Course later on this afternoon. And to me, one driver that you cannot count out is the driver starting alongside Will Power, and that's Alex Palou, the defending NTT IndyCar Series champion. You mentioned Kobe, the only Honda starting in the top 7. He's been very consistent all season long. But now we're in the month of May. We're here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Yeah, it's a road course, but we're here at the legendary Brickyard. Alex Palou hasn't won yet this season. Don't you think he's chomping at the bit to get a win here in the month of May? Either, if he doesn't win today, he wants to win the Indy 500 in just 15 days' time. Yeah, 15 days' time until the 106th Indy 500. It'll be here before you know it. And those rookies, Callum Ilott, Christian Lundgaard, are turning heads as well. I think Will Power can be beaten and will be beaten. By who? I'm going to say the defending NTT IndyCar Series champion, Alex Palou.
I've got to search for a different answer now. Damn. Yeah. The rain is going to play a big factor, isn't it? I was talking with Ryan, who we all know on the Grid Network as well, from IMS radio as well. And I said to him, what's the chance of actually getting a race in without multiple delays? He says, well, it's been moved up 45 minutes. So we should just about get the race through. There's a chance of a red flag, so that's lovely. I've only just got my voice back as well, and I was solo for Formula E earlier, so for a little bit, so that damaged it. And I tell you what, well done to whoever's on camera today. I don't know who it is, but you're keeping me off when I'm coughing and having a coughing fit, so well done. This is actually going to be quite interesting. If the rain comes down, Power is no good in the rain at this track. We've seen it before in the past as well. He has trouble on those tires as well, keeping on the track, and the banking start-finish straight surface as well. The diamond cut, it just doesn't hit the tires well. It's too much. So I've got a feeling that Newgarden, Daly, Award, starting further back in the field as well, 3rd, 4th, 5th, could just about get up the orders. Alex Palou, I haven't really seen him in wet weather conditions in the past 2 seasons as well, so we're going to have to wait for that one to have a margin on. But tell you what, guys, you always say about how rain delays are deadly for broadcasters. I'm about to experience my first IndyCar rain delay live on air. Usually we can just edit them out in highlights. I'm going to have to suffer, aren't I? You're going to make me suffer for entertainment. My pick then, if it's dry, it's Power. We can all agree. If it's wet, as I said, Newgarden, Daly, Award, 3, 4, 5. They're my pick.
Yeah, be your first IndyCar rain delay, and also assuming we're going to see a wet race, it'll be the first time the IndyCar series running the ring using the aero screen, and I believe that'll be something we'll have to look out for, and also be the first time 7-time NASCAR Cup Series champion Jimmy Johnson's raced an IndyCar in wet weather conditions. So I believe if we see a lot of rain today, it's definitely going to shake a lot of things up. I agree with Josh. If it's dry, I think Will Power is definitely going to be the overwhelming favorite, but with rain and the different strategies, and especially if we're going to be on a lightning delay, and Indianapolis doesn't have lights, so you're going to be racing towards darkness, and also the broadcast window, which ends, I believe, at 5:30 p.m. Eastern time here in the East Coast for NBC Sports. So that's another factor we'll be watching as well. And I think if we see a crazy race with all the rain and have to worry about the lightning delay or severe weather and all of that, then it's really going to be anybody's game. It's going to depend on who hit the right strategy, who's out front when the red flag comes out that could potentially in the race. So I think it's going to be a toss up of who could potentially win the GMR Grand Prix at the IMS Road Course later today. And now some of the drivers who were really surprised by not making into the top 10. Scott McLaughlin in 11th, the lowest qualifying Penske driver, Colton Herta 14th. Last year's winner, Rinus VeeKay, really surprised to see him down in 15th. Alexander Rossi in 16th. However, probably the biggest surprise from qualifying was Scott Dixon, way down in 21st, completely missed the setup. And qualifying really matters at this specific track since we typically see the eventual winner qualify towards the front. Why is it so hard to win at the IMS Road Course if you're starting towards the back? And which driver from outside the top 10 has the best opportunity at scoring a podium?
It's difficult. We had this problem in Formula One as well at this track, where if you're outside the top 8 in that time as well, it was difficult to get past the first four rows of the grid. I don't think we ever had a winner at Indianapolis that didn't start outside the top 5 when F1 was here. Then when IndyCar started using the circuit, everyone went, why? Why are you using the infield? It's not going to deliver great racing. We really struggled to have a great race at Indy as well, which was mainly down to the fact that the track design wasn't the greatest and at the time, and the tires weren't great. We all remember that. But I think the layout that IndyCar have got, which was the same as what MotoGP had, but in the other direction, where they cut off the last corner of the banking, put in some very good opportunities to slam on the brakes, hard into the chicane, nice overtaking move. And they got rid of the long meandering section around turn 3 and 4, replaced it with a quick chicane. So it angles you down the straight nicely. They've modified it and they make it work. But still, it's a single file track. I always call this the race of two halves. The first race we get in May, usually we get a bit of excitement. When we go to August or the Harvest Grand Prix, it's terrible. It's boring. Barely any on-track overtakes as well. We just sit there for an hour and a half talking about, oh, look at that pretty golf course on the side of the circuit. So I'm hoping the rain will spice it up a bit. We saw what rain can do at turn 1 on rolling starts here, 2016, when they all piled into each other. I think we could see a better opportunity for drivers starting outside the top 10 to at least get a podium. And I think that will really help the likes of McLaughlin, who starts in 11th. Grosjean starts 12th. Herta down in 14th place. Bad qualifying for him, not even getting out into the fast 12 as well. Rossi, bad qualifying as well. Cashineves as well. He was more focused on the Indy setup for the 500, not on the road course. He actually told his engineers, please don't take the car back to the factory to set up for the road course. We can sacrifice this. Please set it up for the oval, because of course he's going for 5 wins, of course. So everyone's in a real strange position where the fast runners are outside the top 10. So this could be a one-off opportunity where we get everyone back up the order going through as well. Now, Adam, quickly take over because my voice is going.
Oh, you got it, Josh. To me, I think like I said, the rating is going to be a factor in a really big way. And normally, we see passing on the IMS road course. Normally, we see passing on the oval section. In the infield, it's normally single file. So, if you want to make a good pass, you do it on the oval section. Yeah, we do have a straightaway inside, but I think we'll see a lot of single file racing, and who could deliver outside the top 10? Well, one driver that I was surprised, and you mentioned it, Josh, was Colton Herta. Another driver was Scott McLaughlin. To me, that's surprise. That's very, very surprising. But I think if you're starting inside the top 10, you have a good shot to win. Outside the top 10 today, I would look at Scott McLaughlin and Colton Herta as a good wild card pick for Indy.
And started with drivers who are going to be outside the top 10. I think this may sound crazy, although he's starting outside the top 20. I think Scott Dixon might have the best opportunity to score a podium because he's Scott Dixon. Whenever the weekend is not going well for him, it always seems like he's able to salvage the most out of it. So I'd expect Scott Dixon to do Scott Dixon things. Although I wouldn't bet on him getting a podium today, all the way down in 21st with the rain and all the different strategies the teams will be trying to pull today. I think definitely shake up the show, and we could see someone from way deep in the field get a really good result. And why is it so hard to pass it why is it so hard to win at this certain track? I think it's really because there are really limited overtaking opportunities off the screen right now. I'm looking at the track now, but there's like 2 or 3 prime spots for overtaking. The first one's obviously, the long front stretch going down into the heavy braking zone into turn 1. That's probably one of your best chances to overtake, and we're definitely going to have to watch at the start because in the years past we've seen some wrecks right there at the start because it gets very tight heading down into turn 1 when you're going to, then when you're getting into 2, 3, 4 into 5 where you had to quit left right hander. You're really gonna need to be single file through that because going too wide is gonna be no bueno at all. And then the second overtaking opportunity is gonna be the second heavy braking zone heading down into turn 7 and through 8, 9, and 10. Probably gonna need to go single file there. Then another overtaking opportunity is going to be when you're going through 10 and 11 onto the part of the oval section before you get into the chicane, and then coming out of turn 14, you can really set yourself up to make a pass right there on the front stretch coming through start finish. So overtaking is few and far between at this track. It's certainly possible, but you need to make sure you're set up for those 2 to 3 overtaking spots where we typically see passes at the IMS Road Course. And when it comes to the grid ranking top 10, there are currently 4 IndyCar drivers who are there: Alex Palou, Will Power, Joseph Newgarden, and Scott McLaughlin, with consistency being key for Palou and Power. We have to get through the IMS Road Course today, but everyone's been thinking about Indy 500 practice starting on Tuesday, and the race is 7. Josh, you mentioned Elio Castroneves planning to sacrifice the IMS Road Course. He doesn't care about this race at all. All he cares for is the drive for 5. And it's really interesting seeing all of the different IndyCar teams have different agendas. Some teams throwing all of their efforts into the road course first because they want to have a good result here, while some drivers like Castroneves, they're like, nah, I don't really care about this race. I just want to get to the Indy 500 and focus on what really matters the most. And in your opinion, does a win or bat race today at the GMR Grand Prix mean anything in terms of team driver morale leading up to the 500?
Well, if you win today, you can say, I won at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Yeah, it's on the road course, but you can say, I won at this historic track. You go down as probably one of the, it could go down as one of the coolest moments of your racing career, saying, I won at a place. Yeah, it's on the road. Yeah, the race is on the road course today. But you can say, you can be in the same company as the Unserves and Mario Andretti, Helio Castroneves, AJ Foyt, Rick Mears, among others, saying, I won at the Indianapolis 500. And also to let our viewers know, starting Tuesday, Kobe and I are gonna be on the air every night next week to recap practice for the Indy 500. So be sure to subscribe here to the Grid Network on YouTube. We got a lot of views the last 2 years, and we're looking forward to doing this one more time. So if you win today, you can say, hey, I joined the list of a lot of famous people that have won here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Pagano, won the road course, won the 500 2 weeks later. Power won the road course, won the 500 2 weeks later. It's got a nice ring to it. It really does. I've got this. It's a strange feeling. It is. I think you can correct me if I'm wrong. Everybody who's gone on to win both races as well, they won the. They won the road course, then they went on to win the 500. That's the only two people to do it. Pagenaud and Power are the only two to do that. So it gives you a bit of a springboard, I'd say, because it gives you motivation. Like you go off the road course and you go into the practice on Tuesday. You only get 2 days off. That's why we don't race on Sunday, by the way, for this race, because you have to have 2 days off for them to get the track ready for Tuesday for the 500. So yes, it would. If you win the race, it's a motivational boost. If you have a bad race, doesn't really affect you that much, I would say, because it's like it's a different racetrack. It's still Indy. You still get all the feelings of it, but you come onto the 500 and it's like different cars, different track direction, different road course, everything. It is fantastic. So I'm really starting to think that if you can master this, you can master the 500. But it's pretty tricky. I'm looking forward to watching your both shows, you and Kobe, next week as well, after the practice sessions as well. I'm still undecided what I'm doing because I've got no idea. I know USRN might be covering some of the sessions, so I'm going to swoop in there and get those done. I know qualifying I'm doing live because why not? And next week's only F1s that we've done plenty of time there. So I'm doing qualifying live, but I've got no idea what I'm doing with the practice sessions yet. But I know that you two are going to have fantastic company. I'm going to be on for one. Ben's going to be on as well. I know Joe will probably drop in somewhere. So, yeah, absolutely. Follow Adam's advice. Subscribe to the Grid Network because it'll be your place to see all of the action for the Indy 500, all the reports as well, and up-to-date information from trackside because we've got people everywhere. We are everywhere. We've infected the entire planet now. It's brilliant.
Yeah, we're gonna be pretty busy next week, Tuesday through Friday, and actually today is the start of 10 straight days in a row of Grid Network programming. So make sure you like to subscribe as you said, and hit the bell icon so you don't miss it when we go on air. There's gonna be a lot to talk about this. We talk about who's fastest overall. Look at the no-toe sheet. All of the different storylines, and we'll also talk about incidents if they happen on the track. Hopefully we'll have a clean month of May without any big crashes, but unfortunately sometimes that happens because it's all a part of the game. And I agree with what you were saying, Josh. If you win the IMS Road Course today, it's a nice shot in the arm, a great boost of confidence going into the granddaddy of them all, the 106th Indianapolis 500. And if you have a bad race there, I feel like it's much easier to brush off this race more than anyone else, because it's the race before the Indy 500. If you don't do well, just shrug your shoulders and move on, because the Indy 500, if you have a bad points day today, you can always make it up at Indy, because the Indy 500 is a double points event, and we've seen in years in the past drivers who might have had a really good start to the season have a terrible finish at the Indy 500, and it just absolutely kills their season. A driver who got off to a slow start do well at Indy, they're right back in the hunt for the championship. So I think that for all the drivers and teams, try to put your best effort in today. Goes well, great. Doesn't, oh well, because the Indianapolis 500, the Borg Warner Trophy, that's exactly what they're going to be looking for.
Borg Warner Trophy, one of the biggest trophies, most recognizable in all of motorsports, and we're very excited to see who's going to take that trophy. And of course, we have Edward Hunter joining us because it's time to recap Formula E, Berlin E-Prix, their doubleheader race weekend here. And for the start of it, Mortara got the big win, his first pole in Formula E, and he said he had a difficult time leading every lap. Of course, battery management, you don't have a car to slipstream to save energy, but he made it look easy despite what he said in that interview. Led every lap. The only time he didn't lead was when he got the attack mode and he got around with ease, made it look easy to race for him, where he just cruised to victory at Berlin. And right now, he is 19 points behind the points leader, Stoffel Van Dorn. His teammate didn't really do well, but snagged the fastest lap. So overall, great start for the Venturi, Eduardo Montara. And of course, Van Dorn, Fern, right behind in the podium, the top three in the points. So Edward, starting with you, will race 2 see the same 3 up front, or will it be dramatically different?
I think it will be different, Joe, because we've seen in the past, they call it I think in the official program guidance, they call it the, what's it called? The Nil Reb E-Prix, which is Berlin spelled backwards, because of course it's a reverse layout. So remind me of what Joshua was saying when he's talking about the road course and the Indianapolis 500, the Motor Speedway circuit being the sort of reverse layouts. But yeah, I think it's not just that. You've got the sort of rubber offline from the day before, although I think there was a bit of debate we had about this 1 year that they sort of, I think it might have been last year, where they cleaned all the marbles offline, because there were a couple of camera shots. I think it was outside of just after turn 3-4, where they had some marbles offline. You could actually see them in the foreground as the cars are going by in the background, and they looked absolutely huge. So it'll be interesting to see if they clean it or not. I think either way, it'll certainly make for a very, very different race, because the overtaking zones become different. The last corner, which is not really an overtaking zone it wasn't today, certainly. If you see that in the reverse grid layout, that absolutely, because it becomes the first corner, it absolutely becomes an overtaking zone. And the hairpins are mainly kind of the same as they were before. But yeah, it's interesting how much it changes. And yeah, I'm still sort of processing the race, because I've literally had to I had to squeeze a 45-minute race into like half an hour, because I've been doing lots of sim racing endurance commentary today. And in fact, I'm pretty much the only commentator, so this is my break, apparently.
Tom's being
Joshua
mean
has
there.
very helpfully not done any commentary with me whatsoever today, but I didn't help him in Formula E, so we've not really helped each other.
I
But
missed
anyway,
you.
going back,
I
I know,
missed you.
I know, Josh, me too. But going back on topic, Mortara, like you were saying, took pole position. It was a big surprise to see Alexander Sims on the front row, who did very well. Lucky to get into the duels, of course, because Buemi had his best lap time deleted for reasons that I don't remember being explained properly. I think there must have been some kind of technical infraction, and he just didn't get to keep his best lap time, because I think he was using more power than was allocated or something like that. And then Sims snuck in, set the exact same lap time in qualifying as Lucas Di Grassi. No, not Di Grassi, Byrne, sorry. I don't know, because Di Grassi got fastest lap. I was thinking about Di Grassi. And then just missed out. I think it was literally the final sector where Mortara just blitzed it and was 3 tenths faster than Sims. And Verne was very annoyed because the way the qualifying format, dual format works, Sims had to go out first with Verne following him. So because Sims set his time first, he got the position in the final, and Verne was very upset about that. And I think Verne eventually did finish second with a late move with the assistance of Fan Boost on Van Dorn, who himself had a very good race from outside the top 10 to sort of climb through the order. It was a very well managed race strategically by Stoffel Van Dorn, and big for him in the championship, of course, as you can see to this side of me. He still leads by 3 points over Verne, but Verne using his Fan Boost at the end to just nip ahead. And it was, I thought, very intelligent management of the race by Mortara, especially towards the end, where he sort of suckered Jean-Luc Verne into trying to go for a move on him, and he was able to cut back in front of him. It was very astute driving, the sort of driving that we saw from Mortara early in the season when he won in Diriyah, and of course in Mexico. I thought was another well-managed race from Mortara as well. So yeah, and he's had a bit of a difficult time lately. Was sort of not really Monaco, of course. Di Grassi crashed out, so it was great to see Mortara in command, in control, and but I expect it to be very different tomorrow.
Absolutely, and nice hearing your thoughts on the race. We didn't do the commentary together. Yeah, as you've been doing.
Well, I've literally just made
endurance.
These thoughts up, but I haven't had any time to process them, so it's very raw and unfiltered.
They work, honestly. It's like I'm looking forward to having you back in the box tomorrow, though, which I'm going to padlock the door as well so that you don't leave again, because that was one of the stressful
I'm not
races
really in
I've
the
done.
same room as you or the same part of the country, Josh. So
but I can
I'd
lock
be very
Discord.
impressed if you've got some kind of agents over here. They're going to lock my door.
I have spies everywhere, as I think you could all realize. No, but yeah, you've been doing that, and I'll be joining for I think about an hour and a half for the ERC soon as well.
Oh, that's good to know because you haven't
I'll be
written
there.
anything on the schedule.
No, because it was supposed to be 5, and then IndyCar came in and changed everything up again. Anyway, go back to Formula E. Yeah, I had to do that race solo as well. Well, I say so. Yeah, well, my co-commentator, just as the lights was coming on, he had to leave. There was an emergency, so everything's okay now, which is great to hear. Richie will be joining me for IndyCar actually in a couple of hours' time. But literally for 30 minutes, I was commentating solo. And for those of you who don't know, I lost my voice at the end of last week after the Miami race. I got an infection and lost it. I've been waking up sounding like a broken vinyl player all week. So I did a race on Thursday for PSGL and it came back. And then this morning,
Josh.
mid-race, yeah. Then it died. Then it came back again. And then it was dying during Formula E. So apologies if you're listening to the race and I sounded very croaky. Luckily, Ian Birch came in and helped me for the last 10 minutes. But anyway, back to the race. Yeah, that Sims incident was weird. 106.050 for both. But in my opinion, that should have been rerun. That qualifying group should have been rerun because it was the stewards who decided that Sims went out ahead of Verne. So in the qualifying, if I look at it, Verne finished 3rd and Sims finished 5th, but he would have finished 4th. So if we went on qualifying order, Verne would have got through to the final instead of Sims. So
Josh, am I correct in remembering that you were the ones complaining that the dual qualifying system lasted too long? Now
yes.
You're rerunning of a session just
Fair
because
point.
of the identical time to 3 decimal places.
Fair point.
If I can give my
Yes.
opinion very quickly, it feels
Go
to
on.
me, and then we had this before with the loophole where, remember, Degrassi going through the pit lane because the safety guy was going too slow. It feels like Formula E thought it was so unlikely that they didn't even think to cover off the sort of loophole. And so they sort of kept with the rules. So it's for standard qualifying where whoever sets the time first gets ranked ahead, basically, which it's better in like a normal session where you can pick when you go out. But here, Sims was told to go out first. So it was basically kind of, I don't want to say handed to him, but I mean, I think you can argue the other way, which is, well, Verne should have gone a thousandth of a second faster and he would have gone into the final. But and Verne was definitely very annoyed about it. It's always annoying to miss out by infinitesimally small margins. And I don't know if that's a word, but it
works.
Now.
Yeah.
Anyway,
and it's unlikely we're going to see that repeated tomorrow. It as you said, Ed, and it is a different track. It goes in the opposite direction as well. So what was the last corner, turn 10, becomes turn 1. So a very tight entrance to a wide exit becomes a wide entrance to a tight exit of the hairpin as well. So it's going to be fantastic. We saw cars trying the outside last year, the inside as well. And it was that dramatic championship finale where everything was blowing up left, right, and center, literally, as well. And it's going to be a very interesting one tomorrow. Also, the track somehow looks completely different on the TV, even though it's the same track. Just because they're going in a different direction, it looks like it's a different circuit. So that's going to be great.
Well, they also moved the barriers overnight. They do.
They do,
job,
yeah,
actually,
They
track workers.
Yeah, they move all the barriers backwards and forwards. My prediction for tomorrow, though, would actually be Verne winning. I think from what we saw today, with him finishing in second position, he would have had the run on Mortara if Mortara hadn't got that gap early in the race that enabled him to save his attack modes and keep back up there. Better planning would see Verne on the top step tomorrow, for sure. I mean, he could be on the top step today because Mortara is still under investigation. We haven't got the word back from that yet. Unlikely to until tomorrow morning.
Yeah, that was really interesting to hear about Mortara being investigation. Of course, over speeding in the pit road. That was before the race. Highly unlikely that would change the results, but we'll just wait and see.
It wouldn't be the first time it's happened, Josh. Lucas Degrassi being disqualified hours after winning at Berlin.
In Berlin?
It was, yes. And it's happened 1 or 2 times in Formula E's history. But it'll be a huge shame for Mortara because he drove amazingly today.
He drove amazingly today. Very unfortunate that his teammate Lucas Degrassi did not have a good race at all. And behind him in the top 10, we saw both DS Yoshidas, both Porsches, both Jaguars, and both Mercedes in the top 10. So only Mortara and Sims were the 2 that didn't have a teammate up there in the top 10. Of course, Sims with the Mahindra. Andretti, Nissan, they were nowhere in sight in today's race. And even Envision Racing, Fringe, 12th place. He had been very consistent up towards the front so often. Joshua, starting with you, are we seeing now the separation between the teams that we haven't seen in past seasons?
Certainly feels like it, yeah. I mean, it was quite nice to see the gaps beginning to come through as well, as that we had the Mercedes struggling in qualifying and finding good pace in the race as well. And then it was complete opposite as well for the Porsches. Lotterer started 5th, finished, I can't remember where because I'm not got the points, was it 4th? But was dropping back at the start. And then Buemi had this really strange getaway after I thought it was a decent qualifying from Buemi, and then he just stalled on the grid. I mean, it's very hard to stall the Formula E car. I think the only two that have done it is Evans and Sarrazin, to my recollection as well. So it's closing in as well. I've just been told by Matthew Owens as well. Apparently, Christian Lundgaard is a case you might want to look at as well about IndyCar. So I'll get that up for you before the end of the play. I've got a feeling as well that the teams are starting to separate in the last few races of Gen 2, which is normal. We saw it last year with Formula 1 as well, where they were very close all season, and just before the end of the year, a separation starts to go. It's because teams start giving up earlier and earlier as to how much development, how much money they want to spend, and how much they really care about going into it as well. So that's the separation. I was surprised with Degrassi. He must have made contact with Cassidy. I know he's showing on the screen, but Cassidy came in. They were running the same way, and Cassidy then dropped at the end of the race, and Degrassi was already in the pit lane once. So not sure what happened there, but very strong race, and it's nice to see the teams having that separation, but it's going to be scrapped away probably the next race in, where are we next? Jakarta.
Yeah, it's interesting because obviously Formula E is such a manufacturer-heavy championship, and if you look, we had basically the top 10 was, let me think this. So we had 3 Mercedes powertrains because we had De Vries just in 9th, we had Van Dorn in 3rd, and then we had Mortara winning. We had the Jaguars, Bird and Evans. We had the 2 DS Techeetahs, the 2 Porsches. And then we had, and really the outlier was Sims, who did superbly well in qualifying. So really, it was only really, Mahindra not really an independent tier. So really, Mahindra and Venturi were sort of the outliers there. And Venturi have sort of got customer powertrain from one of the best teams. Mercedes, of course, were constructors teams champions last season. So, there was a bit of kind of, especially after qualifying, you sort of felt I sort of decided to bet, predict Sims would win after qualifying, which turned out to be very wrong as a sort of, just as a sort of Hail Mary to see what would happen. And it seemed to be the kiss of death as usual for Alexander Sims, but at least he finally got points today, getting 2 on the board. I don't think we're quite into sort of 2-tier Formula E, and I really hope that doesn't carry forward into Gen 3. But I definitely feel. I think also the fact that Envision, there was a bit of an outlier. They didn't really do particularly well in qualifying. I think Friends had a very good race, but because he qualified right near the back. I think him and Cassidy were 19th and 20th. So Friends was having to fight his way through the pack, and that was why he ended up finishing 12th, just behind Oliver Rowland, if I'm correct on that. So the Mahindras actually sort of converged towards the middle by the end, which was sort of about their kind of natural pace. So Sims definitely outdrove the car in qualifying. And I also thought a little shout out to another independent that impressed me was Sergio Sede Camara, who of course hasn't got to drive the next season, if the rumors are supposedly true, with Dragon taking on DS from the Techeetah team. So the Citroen DS outfit will be joining, building the powertrains for Dragon, and of course for Venturi because of the Maserati link up. And so basically Dragon are bringing on Jean-Eric Vergne from Techeetah and Stoffel Van Dorn from what is currently Mercedes. More on that later, of course, what happens to that team next season, which has been announced, of course. But Sergio Sede Camara and Giovinazzi as well, both drivers fighting for their careers. And I think Sergio Sede Camara especially outperforming what's probably not one of the better cars in the field. It hasn't really been for quite some time, the Dragon Penske. And qualifying in 9th and then obviously regressing back to the car's usual pace. But I thought Sergio Sede Camara, a man really needs to put himself in the shop window, and I think a bit unlucky this season not to score a point yet, but he's been putting in some excellent little performances. I think that him and Oliver Turvey could be big candidates for Formula E's newest team coming in next season.
You mentioned about the newest team. Of course, that's some of the big news that broke this morning as we take a quick glance at the grid ratings for the ABB Formula E. The big news, of course, this morning is that for the 2022-2023 season, McLaren will be replacing Mercedes in Formula E. So that means we're going to have McLaren racing there. And of course, this has all sorts of rumors going on, including potential of a rumor that McLaren may shift Felix Rosenqvist back to Formula E. He is currently in the NTT IndyCar Series. So Ed, starting with you, since McLaren is going to essentially be taking over what is the Mercedes program, is McLaren going to be contending for wins right away?
Hard to say, really, because we don't really know what powertrain they're going to use, because McLaren have made this decision far too late to put together. They signed an option last year, in January last year, and now they've waited until now, during which time Mercedes announced they were leaving. They've waited until now to sort of put together the deal with to take over Mercedes. So it's going to be very similar personality, and James remains as team principal. The two of the drivers may be leaving, though, because, as I said, Van Dorn moving to what is currently Dragon will become DS Dragon, and Nick De Vries, reigning world champion currently, will be, I think, focusing more on his world endurance campaign. So we might not see Nick De Vries remaining with this new McLaren outfit. But Ian James certainly remaining on as team principal, and a lot of the staff in the mechanics and sort of engineering side will basically remain the same. What powertrain they're going to pick, because they, like I said, McLaren have not had time to design their own. So, or if they have, they've kept very quiet about it and missed the homologation deadline. So I imagine we're going to see them. The rumor is Nissan powertrain. So it seems the independents, to run over very quickly, Envision have partnered up with Jaguar. Venturi, as I mentioned, partnered with Maserati, who are using DS powertrains. Dragon factory partnership with DS. Andretti just announced this weekend as well, partnership with Porsche. Other news, AT have returned. The AT Motorsport outfit that used to run the Audi team and won the championship, the Drivers' Championship in Season 3 of Lucas Di Grassi, and was sort of integral and part of their team's championship winning campaign in Season 4 as well. So AT coming back, the sort of Hans-Jürgen AT sort of tuner specialist team for Audi, and they won't be coming with Audi involvement, of course. It's not like a backdoor Audi re-entry, but they are rumored to be using Mahindra powertrains, which is also a very interesting choice. So, but as to McLaren's success, it really depends on the support they get from Nissan. If they do sign that, because like I say, it's just a rumor at this point, they could go completely left field and sign with a completely different manufacturer. It depends the support they get. It depends how much the manufacturer they pick. It's Nissan, we know, basically focused on Gen 3 quite some time. Sebastian Buemi, when he was asked about it in Monaco, was very open about Nissan focusing on their package for Gen 3. They're sort of given up pretty much on developing the Gen 2 package. So it's basically get the best out of what you've got at the moment, which is why we see them taking so many risks, I think, and Buemi almost getting into like you say, there was that weird thing at the start which really cost Buemi. Unfortunately, he was battling with the tail enders to get into sort of the top 15, I think, in the end in Berlin today. But Nissan could well be putting together a decent package with Gen 3, but it's a sort of unknown, really, because I think there are at least 6 other powertrain manufacturers that are probably going to make similar claims. So certainly with the investment, the future of the team is secure, which is the important thing. The future of and that means the future of the jobs of the people who work there. Whether McLaren, gonna have to get used to calling them that. Both names starting with M, of course. Whether McLaren are in a position to fight for the championship instantly, I'm not too sure, because there's too many unknowns. We haven't even talked about who's going to be driving for them. I know the rumor you've written in the notes is about Felix Rosenqvist, of course, who drove for Mahindra and won a couple of races with a big sort of championship contender, and is currently racing in IndyCar with McLaren, I believe. So he's on their books. But I have a feeling they will go for someone with experience in Formula E, as sort of Sergio Sedecamera / Oliver Turvey, because both of them have experience with McLaren as test and reserve in Formula One. And they might go for a rookie, someone who's not got any Formula E experience. So what do you think, Joe?
Struggling to talk at the moment.
Sorry, I thought I'd talk for a while, so you had time to recover.
Just about. I'll take it. Sorry. it's got really, it just comes on every now and then. It's like a knife in the back of your throat.
Okay. So 2 blinks for Oliver Turvey, 3 blinks for Sergio Sedekimara, 1 blink for Felix Rosenqvist.
2 blinks.
Okay, 2. There we go. Okay, which one was that again?
I've got a feeling that McLaren are going to be right up there eventually. It'll take them about 3 or 4 races. That's usually what we see for a new team to come in. And then we'll really see it going full throttle. So it's all about the drivers they get, and it's all about the right strategy. And as you said, they've already made the batteries, so they've got the data on reliability, and they've got the data on what to do for saving energy. The team's going to remain the same, so the engineers are going to know that as well. So that's good. I think they've got about a 60-40% leg up for starting a new team. It's basically just
it's more of a takeover by McLaren rather than a new team. Because we
really
sort of when they took out that option, we all had in our heads, McLaren are going in sort of doing it by themselves, and they're going to make everything. Because McLaren, of course, made the battery for the Gen 2 car, and I think in the original Gen 1 car, McLaren made the sort of default powertrain that all the teams had to use. McLaren Advanced Technology
McLaren wasn't it? Yeah.
Yes. So obviously that was a while ago now. So it's a completely different architecture in the Gen 1 car, as they said. Well, architecture. Why am I talking about architecture? It's car design. It's completely different blueprint. That's more neutral term. That's used in
what I mean, by the way, about sounding like
I hear it.
I hear it too. Yeah.
I'm gonna take a lemon sip or something, Josh.
I've run out of mine in here actually.
But that was a good answer. Thanks for doing that.
I've got some soothers, so I'll be fine by IndyCar. It just comes and goes, and it's really annoying. It's like if we're in for a long delay, then I'm gonna suffer the most.
And Ed and Josh, we thank you as always for doing this. We really do appreciate it. And be sure to subscribe to the Formula E Zone and Josh's YouTube channel as well. Josh has another busy weekend with IndyCar, MotoGP, and the British Touring Car Championship.
Mime along now. It's a mime along. I'll be doing sign language.
Yeah. And with that being said, I'll start with you, Ed. Tomorrow we go reverse racing in Berlin. So I got to ask you, who wins race 2 in Germany?
Good question. I think I can't remember what I predicted before because there was a Twitter question and I put an answer in there. I predicted Sims in race 1, which obviously didn't happen because he fell to 9th, and I think I predicted Wehrlein to win for Porsche. So I think for now, I mean, you know me, I'm very stubborn. Once I made a decision, I got to stick with it. So I think Wehrlein was a little bit outshone by Lotterer today, but I think it could be a different story when we get to the reverse layout. So despite the fact that Wehrlein has not already had any previous form that will indicate he will be fast around Berlin, I'm going to go with Wehrlein.
I'm going to go with Vern to win tomorrow. As I said earlier on in the program, I think if he takes what he's learned today and goes forward, and the team get the attack modes right, it's going to be great for Vern as well. I presume, did you ask me, Adam, as well about IndyCar?
For the IndyCar race and the MotoGP race tomorrow as well.
For IndyCar, if it's dry, will Power. If it's wet, Pato O'Ward. That's my pick as well. I don't think.
Oh, cool! I voted O'Ward as well, as a guess because you won last time, and I thought
you did.
Works well. For MotoGP, again, if it's dry, Fabio Quartararo. If it's wet, it'll be Marc Marquez. That's my pick. No, I'm gonna be quiet now, and I need Megan, but she's got the same thing as me. So MotoGP tomorrow is going to be really fun.
It's spreading in the house.
Yes, yeah. Megan's got it, and
a lot of throat spray, Josh.
Yeah, I've got some. Thanks for reminding me.
You're welcome.
I'll have that on before Indy, but do tune in for MotoGP tomorrow because it's just going to be absolutely hilarious. Me and Megan just not talking. It's going to be brilliant.
Well, anyway, thanks for your time, guys. But if you excuse me, I've got another race to get back to commentating on because it's
Ed,
still going.
do I
So,
get a pass?
That's absolutely fine, Josh. Well, just come and listen. Just pretend. Just send me a message, text every half hour or so, just to make sure I'm still alive. But anyway, you guys enjoy the rest of the show, and I'll talk to you, I guess, again tomorrow to see how race 2 goes. But you guys take care, and it's been a pleasure talking to you. So I
Yes,
guess
sir.
next up, you guys
Yes,
have got
sir.
NASCAR.
Yeah, NASCAR up next. Last but not least, and 1 week after Darlington, and people are still talking about Joey Logano versus William Byron. People are split on this incident, but we know the teams are looking to move on this weekend at Kansas Speedway, and this track has been known to be tough and a challenge for the drivers over the years, and we're familiar with the NASCAR race weekend format now for this year. 1 short practice, 2 rounds of qualifying, and then the race. The Cup drivers won't hit the track today until 5 p.m. Eastern Time for practice. Besides the new car and technology, how much does limited track time add to the challenge?
It is going to be a challenge, Kobe, and we're going to talk about this in a little bit. But rain is in the forecast for tomorrow, so yeah, and you see on the graphic on the screen, it's going to be interesting in the sunflower state of Kansas. I think with this limited track time, I think you're going to have to put it all down in practice and then go out and have a really good qualifying session, because if you can start at least in this top 10 to 20, I think you'll have a good shot to win tomorrow. It's gonna be a very interesting race tomorrow in Kansas.
The challenge is something that the teams and the drivers, I think, are really going to be, just like in Darlington, a little bit surprised by. This has really turned into a 3-race stretch of just tricky track after tricky track after tricky track. All started in Dover. We know it's been the Monster Mile the last few years. It hasn't exactly gotten a lot of bite from the Monster. It did this year. Even Kyle Larson went for a spin. Then we go to Darlington, the Lady in Black. Again, another track with the old package. It didn't seem like it was the typical Darlington too tough to tame. It came back last weekend. I think this race weekend in Kansas, it has been known to get some of the best drivers by surprise. We all remember when Jimmy Johnson, I believe in 2012, spun, ruined the back end of his car. That hurt his championship hopes against Brad Keselowski. We've seen Kyle Busch crash here, a big crash one time with him and Joey Logano, where they two got together. So this is going to be a really tricky track. I think the lack of time on the track adds on to it. And then, as you mentioned, Adam, with the potential of rain coming, you got to lay down a fast lap, probably be a loose handling car. Hope we get this race started, because it does look pretty bad noon, but there's a window potentially by race time. And race towards the front, because if the raindrop starts coming and we're past the halfway mark, it could be time's up and potentially somebody could be a winner. You got to try to cover it. Is there somebody that's towards the back going to use strategy, stay out? You could go from pitting in the lead to pitting in the top 10 or outside the top 10 and get caught up in trouble on a restart. There is a lot to potentially unpack with this race, and it's going to be a very interesting race soon when we get it going because of the chances of rain.
Yeah, and we'll dive a little bit more into the rain and the forecast in just a little while. But you mentioned the challenge of Kansas Speedway. Yeah, it really does get some of the best drivers. And out of all the mile-and-a-half tracks on the schedule, for some reason, this seems to be the track where you see the hardest crashes. Remember, just a couple of years ago, Ryan Preece had a nasty smash on the backstretch, and the impact was so significant. Hit all 4 wheels come off the ground. They almost flipped over. Yeah, we've definitely seen some real vicious hits. And also, remember Eric Jones several years ago when he was driving for Furniture Road Racing, he almost went over on the backstretch. So Kansas Speedway, a huge challenge for all the drivers, and certainly it doesn't lack for danger either. Kyle Larson is one driver who's usually the favorite to win each week, despite one victory. He hasn't been the main favorite lately. He won the Kansas Fall race last year, but this year he enters this race weekend with 4 DNFs. and has spun out in the last 2 races. So definitely not looking like the Kyle Larson we saw last year. However, Hendrick Motorsports have won both mile-and-a-half races so far in 2022 at Las Vegas and Atlanta, although Atlanta races more like a super speedway nowadays. And the last 2 mile-and-a-half races of the 2021 season, Kyle Larson was the winner. Do you see a Hendrick driver winning at Kansas, and could it be Larson?
I see potential for a Hendrick driver winning at Kansas, but I don't think it's going to be Kyle Larson. I think you got to look at William Byron. He is really coming to his own. 2 wins. He could have easily been 3 wins had Joey Logano not gotten to the back bumper of him. Or, of course, even then, his tires, he was losing track ground. He would have still gotten a top 5 finish potentially. So William Byron, I think, is going to be a potential there. Alex Bowman seems to be really random. When nobody picks him, he's going to be up there. I think they're going to rebound after a rough race at Darlington. With that said, maybe he won't show up since somebody has already picked him to go towards the front. But Kyle Larson, I feel he's probably right now in that area where just get a good run together, get some points, because it'll be something else to say 3 races in a row Kyle Larson has spun out. And if he gets another DNF, that'll be something where, besides rookie season, I can't remember that for Kyle Larson. After last year, he looked so unbeatable. 5 DNF already this year, a 6th one. Yeah, he's in the playoffs. He'd probably get more wins, but he's missing out on playoff points big time.
Absolutely, Joe, and I agree with everything you said. I believe a Hendrick driver will win tomorrow, and I don't think it's going to be Kyle Larson. You can't, like you mentioned, Hendrick Motorsports they won on every 1.5 mile track this year, so I expect them to be a contender tomorrow. And I'll just say, Hendrick Motorsports will win. So stick around until we do our pick winner, who I think will get the job done in the Sunflower State tomorrow afternoon.
Yeah, looking at Kyle Larson's season so far, outside of those four DNFs, he had it in the Daytona 500, Phoenix, Atlanta, and Darlington. He's actually run well at most of the other tracks. He won at Fontana, finished second at Las Vegas, and then got top 5s at Richmond, Bristol Dirt, and Talladega, a track where he never does well at, and then he also got a 6th place finish at Dover. So Kyle Larson is still running very strong, but he's just not converted into wins as often as we saw it last season. I think Kyle Larson's still running strong this year if you throw out all the outliers, but he's not the same Kyle Larson we saw last year where he was dominant week in and week out. It's not too late for him to get to that point because it's still early on in the season, and the months that are going to matter the most are going to be coming up in the summer. We're going to be getting into June, July, and August, where you're going to have to build that momentum and get back up to that the same form we saw last year, where people will want to pick Kyle Larson every week for a pick a winner. And I'm not sure if people will want to pick Kyle Larson every week now because he's just not as strong as we've seen, but he's still running really, really well. I think a Hendrick driver is certainly going to be the favorite this weekend to win, but I'm not sure if everyone's first choice will be Kyle Larson. Qualifying's later today at 5:35 p.m. Eastern Time on FS1. All eyes on the likes of Hendrick Motorsports, Ross Chastain, and Tyler Reddick as potential favorites. Chevrolet might be the favorites, but the Fords and Toyota should be in the mix. Joey Logano won last weekend at Darlington. Danny Hamlin and Kyle Busch riding well too until they both ran into trouble. In your opinion, which non-Chevy drivers could be serious contenders for the win?
You cannot Joey Logano. He has a lot of momentum on his side after winning last weekend at the track they called Too Tough to Tame at Darlington. And you mentioned Kyle Busch. He has momentum on his side after what happened with him and his wife Samantha. So maybe that momentum will carry him to a victory tomorrow. And yeah, you cannot. I don't think you can count Denny Hamlin as well. I think he'll be another driver that you got to look out for when it comes to racing. here in Kansas.
When it comes to Kansas, I'm going to be actually looking towards the Penske drivers, what Joey Logano did. Last race weekend, we said here that if he was to win, he has to stay up front all race long, and he did that at Darlington, put himself in position to win, because it seems with his teammate Blaney, once he got mid-pack, was just not right there. If he could get a good qualifying run, be towards the front, I think he will do a great job at staying towards the front and contending for a win. That's really, I think, when it comes to non-Chevrolets, he's the lead Ford. Toyota, Denny Hamlin, just get a good run, no bad breaks, no big mistake, no bad luck. He's shown speed. He could get it done. Kyle Busch the same way. It just seems like always something happens and it slips through their fingers, the race win. So overall, I think it's going to be something where with this race, it's going to be really interesting to see if the Fords, Chevrolets could just put together a good, solid run, and I think they could bring the fight to the Hendrick Motorsports Chevrolets, as well as Ross Chastain and Tyler Reddick, who always seems to be up there.
Yeah, Tyler Reddick always seems to be up there. He's been close to winning multiple times before, but just hasn't been able to seal the deal. And I think Kansas could be a really good track for Denny Hamlin to really start building some momentum. And looking at how Denny's performed this season, it's really surprising that Denny Hamlin only has one top 5 and one top 10 finish, and that was his win at Richmond. And it's just been shocking to see how terribly inconsistent Hamlin is. Since he's won at Richmond, he finished 28th at Martinsville, 35th at Bristol Dirt, 18th at Talladega, and then a pair of 21st place finishes at Dover and Darlington. And when you compare it to last season, Denny Hamlin had top 5 after top 5 after top 5 during this early stretch in the season and running very consistently well. So it's definitely been a different story comparing this season, his start to this season and his start to last season. So I think Denny's run extremely well at Kansas in the past, and I think this could be his chance to finally get another top 10, another top 5, and start building towards the summer months as his number 11 team wants to show that they can contend for this year's championship. But based on how they're running right now, I don't view Denny Hamlin as a legitimate championship contender. And we already talked about the challenge of Kansas and the rain in the forecast. By the time the race is expected to start, the chance of rain may drop to 43%, but Dover saw everyone racing against the rain until we had to postpone on Sunday and go on Monday. But unlike Dover, Kansas Speedway has light, so we can potentially go late into Sunday night if needed. So with the threat of rain in the forecast, so it may be racing the halfway tomorrow, how much will this add to the urgency?
It adds a lot of urgency because in that first stage, you're going to try to get towards the front as fast as possible, hoping for caution flags and executing good pit stops. If we get to that second stage, you're going to do everything you can to just get the lead, stay out front in the lead. And this is where it's going to get really hard. As we get closer and closer to that halfway point, we're getting to the point where if there's a caution, do you stay out or will somebody from the back stay out while you pit stop? So this is where it gets really challenging for the crew chiefs. The driver, they pretty much got to put it in the crew chief's hand. Because the thing is, they could pit, get the forest tires, beat everyone off pit road. But you have 5 or 6 cars that just beat you. That could be raced over if the rain shows up and we're hit the halfway point. Or worse, you get a restart, another quick crash, get a third, fourth, or into trouble, and your race is over and the rain continues. So it adds a lot of urgency to be up front for qualifying. Have a good stage 1 and just position yourself for stage 2. If we make it through the halfway point and we still have the threat of rain, that is where it is going to really be all on the crew chief to just make that call. Because at that point, you just know the race could end any minute, and it's the crew chief that's going to make that decision. It's a caution. Do we pit or do we stay out?
Joe, I agree with everything you said. We know that there's a threat of rain tomorrow, and everyone is going to go out as hard as they can to get the job done. Because as we all know, after stage 2, the race is official. So you're gonna have to drive smart tomorrow. Have good pit stops and rely on your crew chief a lot. And also, you may have to rely on your spotter as well, because they may tell you rain is 10 miles away, rain is 5 miles away, rain is close. So you're gonna have to drive smart tomorrow, all day long, and you may have to gamble. You know, if someone pits, you could stay out, and who knows, you could move up several positions and be in a good spot to win if the race does get called because of rain.
And while we're on the subject of talking about weather, an update to the IndyCar race that's happening later today. Right now, the Indy Light Series we're on the track racing, and right now they're under a lightning delay, and that's something we're gonna have to look out for today in the IndyCar Series. And really surprised to see a lightning delay this early in the day at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And for anyone out there who doesn't know the rules of lightning delay in professional sports here in the United States, if there's one lightning strike, you have to go 30 minutes without another lightning strike before you can continue the action. It is really for safety concerns. So if you make it 29 minutes without a lightning strike, then another lightning bolt hits, then you have to wait another 30 minutes. And at a track that doesn't have lights, that's not good at all. But for the NASCAR Cup Series, as I mentioned, Kansas has lights. If there's a 30-minute lightning delay, they'll be able to go as late as they possibly can, especially since they're not going to be on Big Fox on network television. They're going to be on FS1, so they have a lot more flexibility with programming their FS1, FS2. So NASCAR race could certainly go as late as they need to get things in. And the weather is always changing fast. It may rain, it may not rain, but if we're banking on the fact that it's going to rain at Kansas Speedway, I think the sense of urgency could potentially be really massive, with the drivers racing hard like every lap is the last lap, and the closer you get to halfway, if rain's approaching the track, then every lap very well may be the last lap, and then you make it past halfway, and rain still has the end of the race, but still in the forecast, still could happen. Then the last half of the race could be really, really crazy, because then every lap very well could be the final one. So if we get to race time tomorrow and rain is still going to be the big talk in the garage area, then I think we could see quite a really thrilling race at Kansas.
Yes, Kobe, it could be a really thrilling race in the Sunflower State of Kansas. And now it's time for everybody's favorite game here at Grid Network. Pick a winner, and we take a look at our leaderboard. Kobe's on top with 19. I'm right behind him at 14. Alex Fleener from Twitter is at 13. Our colleague Matt White and our colleagues Matt White and Ben Schneider are tied for fourth with 9. So use the hashtag pick a winner on social media, and you can see your name here on the leaderboard. That being said, it's time that we all make our picks. First up, MotoGP is at the historic Le Mans Bugatti circuit in France for the Grand Prix of France. All right, Joe, I'll start with you. Who wins? Does a Frenchman win tomorrow on home soil?
No, it's going to be Pecco Bagnaia taking the win at the MotoGP race in the Bugatti circuit at Le Mans. He's on the pole. We all got to remember Austria, where Brad Binder won with a dry tire, who was second place, and charging Pecco Bagnaia, he's going to win rain or shine.
Rain or shine, but I'm going to defer and say the Frenchman gets it done. I think Fabio Quartararo is going to carry the momentum into his home Grand Prix and get the job done for all the fans at Le Mans.
And I'm going to agree with my colleague Kobe Lambeth, and I'm going to say that Fabio Quartararo gets it done as well in his home country, and the French crowd is going to go absolutely crazy. Next up, we have to another historic track, as IndyCar is at the historic Indianapolis Motor Speedway on the road course for the race later on this afternoon, and like we mentioned, rain is in the forecast there as well. So I'll start with you, Joe. Who wins at the Brickyard?
I'm going with Will Power. Rain or shine, he's good at that track. If he gets a good start, leads, and exiting turn one, he has the race just about wrapped up. It will take a mistake from him or a caution during the green flag pit stops to ruin his race.
Yeah, I believe Will Power will definitely be one of the favorites to win. But when you throw rain into the equation, and just looking at the weather forecast, apparently there's some strong winds and rain heading towards the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And if we're gonna have a wet track thing, that could potentially throw a wrench in Will Power's plan thing. It could be a toss up, but I think it's gonna be the driver who's starting alongside the front row is gonna get done. I think Alex Palou gonna carry the momentum. He's been building to start this season, and finally break through and get his first win of the season.
Somehow Kobe and I are on the same wavelength, as I'm also picking Alex Palou to get the job done on the road course. Gives him a lot of good momentum as we all know, in 15 days, the greatest spectacle in racing, the 106th Indy 500 gets underway. Next, we head to Berlin, Germany, as Formula E has race 2 tomorrow, but it's going to be a reverse course from earlier today. So, Joe, I'll start with you. Who wins in Berlin?
I'm going with the driver that got second place, Jean-Eric Vergne. He was fast. He knows how to win there. I don't see why he can't do it. Get a good qualifying position, good start. Really, he made that late move for the lead. Didn't work out. That gave Martora the easy win. So I'm going with Jean-Eric Vergne and the TS Chichita to get the win.
And let's see if we can make it unanimous with Adam. And I'm also going with Jean-Eric Vergne to get the job done on the reverse course on the streets of Berlin.
It's unanimous. I picked, even though I finished second in race 1, and I did pick him to win race 1, I'm making it unanimous, and I say Jean-Eric Vergne wins race 2 in Berlin. Next, we head to the Sunflower State of Kansas, where NASCAR is there this weekend, and rain is in the forecast there as well. So, with that being said, all right, Joe, does a Hendrick Motorsports driver take the win tomorrow in Kansas?
No, it won't be a Hendrick Motorsports driver. It's going to be Ross Chastain. He's going to come out, prove he is still the real deal. I mean, we talked about, can he show his real deal? He nearly did at Dover. He did at Darlington until he crashed. He's going to come back and prove it again. He's the real deal. Trackhouse is a team you got to face in the championship.
Yeah, if Ross Chastain wins at Kansas, then I think he'll silence any doubters out there, and he can show that him and Trackhouse Racing are legitimate contenders to make it all the way to the championship Ford race in Phoenix. But I think a Hendrick driver is going to win. And Joe, you mentioned earlier during our NASCAR section, when people don't pick this driver, he ends up winning. And I don't believe I've ever picked him on Pick a Winner before, so there's a first time for everything. And I think I'm going to drive to number 48. Alex Bowman is going to win in Kansas, and I don't think he's going to back into this one.
Well, I am also picking a Hendrick Motorsports driver, and it's a driver that we focused on. If you watch Grid tonight, NASCAR's newest rivalry between Joe Logano and William Byron. I'm saying that William Byron gets the job done in Kansas tomorrow, and after the bad luck he had at Arlington, he comes back, inventions, and wins. And last, but definitely not least, the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Series Championship at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course in Lexington, Ohio. With that being said, all right, Joe, who wins that race tomorrow afternoon?
I'm going with the team that has won there before. I'm going with Wayne Taylor Racing. They're going to get the job done at Mid-Ohio and get a win.
Tomorrow in the Lexus Grand Prix at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, I think it's going to be the hometown team, Meyer Shank Racing. They're based in Ohio. They want to do well for Acura and run well at home. I think Tom Blomqvist and Oliver Jarvis is going to get the job done in number 60 Acura DPI.
Well, I'm gonna agree with Joe, and I'm gonna say that when Taylor Racing finds a way to get around that hometown team of Meyershank Racing and gets the job done at Mid Ohio. And with that being said, I'll hand it over to my colleague Kobe Lambeth for the wrap up of the pre-race show.
Yeah, and please be sure to like and subscribe to Grid Network here on YouTube if you like what you saw today. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Take 5 minutes after our show and consider joining our Patreon. Invest in Grid Network to keep us on the air well into the future. Click the link to buy me a coffee in the video description below, and you can buy a drink for your favorite on our channel here at Grid Network. We appreciate Edward Hunter from Formula Zone, who was just on here earlier, and Amber and Zachary for buying us a coffee. We greatly appreciate it. Any amount will help us continue growing our motorsports media outlet. Visit Publo.com, also known as the stock market social media home. The link below and referral code GridNet gives you $5 to invest immediately. Publo.com allows you to connect with your friends. You make new friends and use tools to learn how to properly invest in the stock market. And tomorrow we'll be back on the air to recap the weekend on Grid Live wrap up 90 minutes after the NASCAR Cup Series race at Kansas Speedway, assuming they don't get rained out or finish late. For Joe, Ed, Julia, Josh, and Adam, I'm Cubby Lambert from the Podium Finish. Thank you for watching. Enjoy the races.
Don't be an anonymous investor. Join the stock market social media platform, public.com. Invest any amount of money and share with friends and new friends. Discover new opportunities, such as new companies and potential business partners, and useful tools for beginners, and share your experience with friends on public.com. Link in the video description gets you $5 for being a Grid Network viewer. Use the referral code GridNet for your free $5 to invest. Start investing and networking on public.com.